Welcome to the Low Production, High Value Show with your host, Andrew Jenkins. On the show, we'll be exploring the world of entrepreneurship, social media, and the growing digital landscape. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, you know that the world of business is constantly evolving and changing. And in today's digital age, it is more important than ever to understand how social media and technology are affecting the way we do business. That's why on this show, we'll be talking to entrepreneurs and experts who have a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with you. From the latest trends and technologies to the struggles and triumphs of running a business, we'll be covering it all. So if you're looking to level up your entrepreneurial game and become more digitally savvy, then let's get started with the Low Production, High Value Show.
Welcome to the latest episode. Today's guest is Tricia Mumby. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Nice to see you.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time, probably.
I don't know how many years, but good to be reconnected nonetheless. So for those listening and for those watching on YouTube, you were one of the co-founders of what has come to be known as Mabel's Labels. So yes. I want to jump back in history a little bit and get your take on how that all got started and the inspiration and getting it off the ground.
Well, it was 2003 that we first turned on a printer, and we probably toyed with the idea for a year longer than that. And it really just came as a need in the marketplace. My partner, Julie Cole, was having young kids, one after another, dozens of them, well, 6. And she was in law school and putting her kids into daycare very, very early because she was in school. And the daycares were saying, label this. You got to send your stuff labeled. And there were no labels that would go through the dishwasher. So every single day, moms were just taking, a hello, my name is label or a Band-Aid or a piece of tape. And then every single day they would fall off. And also they were gross, like the kids touching, sticky. I didn't have kids at the time, but I worked in printing. So the idea was swirling around. And so Julie and both Julies and Cynthia, the fourth partner, we were all friends. And so because I knew printing, they kind of wrote me into it. And I didn't have kids at the time. And honestly, I didn't understand the need. I didn't understand why their kids could not keep track of their stuff. And I thought this was a bad idea. So we started very nervously and very quietly. And we didn't raise any money. We kept it to a very strict budget. We were pretty funny when I look back at those early days of how cheap we were about what to spend. We even, like when we first got our first brochure was chosen. The colors we chose as our corporate colors. We chose because in the print shop I worked in, there was some leftover pink and blue from wedding invitations. And I said to the print manager, I was like, if I use these colors, can I get a discount? So those became our corporate colors. Like silly things like that. And we just didn't think we were business people, and we didn't take it seriously, and we didn't know what was going to happen. Our original logo was hand drawn by me. Most of our original icons were drawn by me. I cringe to think of them. And I occasionally
you were bootstrapping before it was a word.
Horrible. Yeah, we were just I don't know. We felt a bit silly, I think, because no one believed in it. When there's a product that doesn't exist on the marketplace, when you're actually coming with first to market product, people don't get it. They're like, oh, honey, I've got a marker. Why would I need that? When we went to buy our first big piece of equipment a year after we launched and on the very, very cheap equipment and realized it was going to be a thing, the sales manager, when we went to finally seal the deal and take this gigantic piece of equipment back to our basement, he's like, guys, I got to tell you, I feel really bad about this. We're like, why? What's happened? He said, this is just a terrible idea, and you're gonna have to pay for this printer for years. We're like, okay, thanks. Years later, he had to eat those words because he had to admit we were one of his biggest clients in the GTA.
Wow.
So I don't know.
Karma.
Even our husbands weren't that keen on it, to be honest. They thought we'd all gone to university. We had 7 degrees between us. We had jobs. Why did we want to go to the basement and make stickers? Is what we thought, which we would always correct them. They're not stickers. They're labels. So yeah, we started out very homegrown, but it really just took off really fast and got completely out of hand.
Did you all, I've had partners in the past. I would be reluctant to have partners ever again. No, I'm still friends with them and so on, but just my nature. Mm-hmm. did you fall into a natural complementary roles, or did you have to have frank discussions with one another about, I as much as you want to do that, I don't think you're the best for it, or talk about that
Yeah,
dynamic.
we did have to from time to time, but we fell into pretty natural roles very soon, very early days. We noticed very quickly that we couldn't possibly make every decision together. Like, I would draw a duck. Guys, I think we should have a duck. Oh, well, I think the duck should be this color, and I think the bill should be that. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work. We all had jobs, we all had babies, we all had lives, husbands, and craziness going on around us. I was like, I'm just going to draw the duck, and you're going to deal with it. And we'll see if the duck sells. If the duck doesn't sell, I was wrong. We couldn't. So, we had to make silos, we called them. And, somebody was in charge of the math. Somebody was in charge of production. Somebody was in charge of PR and in customer service. And somebody was in charge of the art and the brand and the marketing. And that's pretty much how the lines were divided. And we stuck to those lines for a long time until some things grew out of hand. Like suddenly we turned into an IT company and we had no idea that was happening. And so somebody had to take that on. And so every now and again, we had to reshuffle as something became too much. One year I went to California, like my family and I moved to California to work the US market and try and understand Americans, which I'll tell you takes more than a 9-month stint. And so I had to give up most of my portfolio so that I could do different things. And I basically just concentrated on California for a while. So we shuffled from time to time, but we all definitely have different strengths and we definitely had some uncomfortable conversations about it. But what I always say in my observation of knowing thousands of entrepreneurs, I feel like female partnerships are a little more successful. And I think that is actually a fact. And I think it's partially because women are willing to sit at the table as long as it takes to talk it through. We just love to talk and we love to solve problems and we just talk it out. And I think men are a little more apt to be like, this is not working. And so we definitely have some.
Let's take this outside.
Yeah, or just I don't need this.
Yeah.
And we were pretty invested. Like we really, Mabel was our baby, and none of us was willing to walk away. So we had to sit at the table, and it wasn't that hideous. And I love partnerships, and I honestly don't think I would ever be a solo entrepreneur. I know that I would be incredibly lazy if I didn't owe somebody something, if I didn't feel some pressure, if I didn't have somebody to bounce things off of. It's not for me.
Well, sometimes it can be, I'll call it lonely if you want to describe it that way. But, if I do surround myself with other entrepreneurs in different disciplines, and so we sort of sound our sounding boards to one another, or if you want to call it a loose mastermind. I'm struggling with this, or I'm struggling with that. And I just got a call from a friend of mine who's in PR yesterday because he wanted to understand some new things that are materializing in the social space and what, if any, impact it would have on his media efforts and so on for clients. So happy to support them. But before we get much further, I just wanted to revisit your story about drawing the duck. It just makes me think of the saying, what's the definition of a camel? I don't know if you know that one.
I don't know.
It's a horse designed by a committee.
Probably, yeah.
Well, and so to your point, well, you have to collectively listen. We cannot come to a stop or a halt every time. We all have to convene to decide about something small. And I remember working with a international nonprofit, and they were working on a brochure, kind of to inform their stakeholders and for donations. And the head of the organization was weighing in on the color and the picture that was chosen for the brochure. And I was just looking, going, is that the best use of their time?
Exactly.
And I learned later from the team.
Gigantic companies make that mistake.
No.
And that's wonderful for them. They seem to have time and money to burn, but a small startup does not.
Well, and so what did you bring back from California from that experience?
Business? It was very bad timing. We showed up in September 2009. So Lehman Brothers happened just, 2 weeks after I got there. And I was in San Diego County. That's where I chose to be. It felt most central to our hotspots, which were LA, Orange County, and San Diego. Plus it has nice beaches. And yeah, it was brutal, but I did learn a lot. I met some wonderful people, and it gave me the opportunity to work a lot of influencer events, and we got really embedded in the celebrity event, celebrity seating stuff. That was a big part of our marketing strategy from day one. And yeah, I learned that Americans, we had a lot of advisors tell us that we were never going to break into the US. We were never going to make it big in the US because we weren't American. So I spent a lot of time just looking at moms in the face and talking to them. We're from Canada. And all I ever got was, we love Canada. They didn't care. They didn't care where we were from. So all those advisors were wrong. It's irrelevant to them where they shop from. I learned it's true. It was, I don't know if that's still true, but it was truly irrelevant. And they just wanted something that worked. And I don't know, I loved everyone I met in California. I love Americans. I really do. Like, our American shoppers have always been amazing. They're forthcoming. They tell us what they think. It was a great experience, but very bad timing.
Well, it's 2009, as you said. Lehman Brothers has just gone under, and there's the financial crisis is still top of mind with so many at that point. But social media is relatively nascent then too. I mean, Twitter's only a couple of years old. I'm just using Twitter as an example. Facebook is not what it is today. When you talk about these influencers that you engaged, how did you find them, and what were they doing as ambassadors at that time to help raise visibility for you?
So Facebook was our first platform. And I remember we had our very first employee, who was a cousin, came from university. She'd been at Dow, and she's like, everyone's joining up for this thing. Because it was the university students that were on it first. And we were like, whatever. She's like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to set you guys up. Okay, fine. We owe her. She knows it too. She reminds us all the time, we owe her. Hi, Melissa. And so Facebook was great. Facebook was amazing. It was the wild, wild west of Facebook. There were no ads. Zuckerberg didn't want anything for anything. There was no algorithm. We just invite people into our page. It was magic. And so we grew to over 100,000 fans really fast in those days. I can't remember how many years it was. But Twitter was amazing for finding people, like being able to figure out who, Elizabeth Hasselbeck's assistant is. Like, we got very crafty with the spying. We got very crafty with figuring out how to get. So we did most of our celebrity seeding ourselves in the beginning, and it was amazing. Like, we got so much amazing press from that. Elizabeth Hasselbeck did end up going on The View without telling us. One day, our phones just started ringing like crazy. She turned to the camera and said, I can't live without Mabel's labels. And at the time, The View was a very hot show, and it was just magic. We knew she was buying from us because we'd seen the name come through. Okay. And we knew it probably stemmed from some seeding. I think we saw her sister-in-law order once. Like, we had our staff if anybody spotted any name that they thought might be a celebrity, or if something came from California, if something came from New York, we were so nosy.
It sounds like you had a war room.
Our whole production, that's the beauty of working in a big open basement, and all our young staff, like, I look back at those days, it was mostly cousins and whoever we could find, other moms that would work at night and cut labels for us because we were working at night because we had jobs and babies. They were all cheering for us too, and they really felt a part of something. It was really fun.
That you can't. I want to say this genuinely. You can't buy that kind of culture.
You absolutely can't.
Yeah.
No, it was amazing. I remember we always said the only training we ever did was, if you don't feel comfortable answering the phone, don't answer the phone. If so, then the people that would answer the phone, every time the phone rings, assume it's Oprah's assistant. And I remember watching this one girl dive over one desk to get to the desk where the phone was, and practically broke her neck. Hello, Mabel's labels. I was like, yeah. And they really did that. Like, it really was it was really exciting. And most of those people, the young people that now are moms of themselves, and the moms that worked at night cutting labels with us, we're still friends with them. We still, they still feel proud to be a part of that. The basement days will never to be repeated, for sure. We had some good times.
Did you make it onto Oprah's favorite things list?
No, but
it was a different type of thing with her.
No, we stalked Oprah. We stalked Oprah really, really hard. Every single year we sent Oprah's favorite things letters. We found out, we knew, we made a project out of knowing if there was any staffing change going on at Harpo. We knew. And so one day a producer did call and said, can I just ask you why you keep emailing me, why you keep sending me packages? We're like, we want to be Oprah's favorite thing. You're never going to be Oprah's favorite thing. And I said, why? She said, because she doesn't talk about baby things, which wasn't true. And I said, that's not true. I can't remember what example. She said, it's not expensive enough. And I said, oh my gosh, have we sent you the wrong package? I told them to send you our new Swarovski crystal labels. They're $75 for 15. Oh, send me those. Get off the phone. We need to get some Swarovski crystals and figure out how to apply them. So somebody drove to Toronto, got tiny, tiny crystals from some supplier, got airplane glue. We had to get masks and these tweezers and glued down labels, made up packaging. We had to make up a fake hot sheet for it, like as if we had a press sheet for it and forgot to attach it, and sent it. And we still were not Oprah's favorite thing. But we did get on Rachel Ray, The View twice. Ellen invited me to go and talk about labels. She almost ran me over with her car also. And turns out it was a paid opportunity. She wanted $75,000 for a 1-minute thing. It was very disappointing. But other than Ellen and Oprah, we basically got on everything we ever wanted. The Today Show many times, Good Morning America. Yeah.
Well, I love the never say no attitude, like as in it's not expensive. Like I've heard of, I think the person behind the Swell bottles got a call from Oprah's staff about Oprah's favorite things, and they said, we want to include it, but we need several other colors. And she only offered it in 2, and they needed like 2 more. And she's like, yeah, they're in production. I'll get them to you. And she gets off the phone like, now what? I got to fulfill this. And
I love that.
Just, it's not about no, it's about how. So
exactly. The first big call we ever got was from Martha Stewart's people. They called and said, we just saw you in this blog. Is it okay if Martha talks about you on Tuesday's show? We're like, that's okay. She was great. We need some fresh product and headshots. We're like, no problem. We got off the phone. This is early days in the first basement. And we had to Google what. And then we had to find a photographer, quickly get to a photographer. Like it was the same. Like we just did absolutely shameless and just do anything. Like we always, if anybody was going anywhere, even on vacation, that was either in New York or LA, they always had to carry like a trade show booth kind of thing. Like you couldn't just go to the plaza to see the band. Just in case you got a camera depth spot, you had to have a banner ready. And so I do have a picture of me standing behind Matt Lauer's head with the banner. We were just ready for anything. Like we're like, well, who might be in New York this week that has kids? You better walk around with those labels just in case. Like we were just ridiculous.
You were guerrilla, but the proof is in the success.
And it was fun. It's my idea of fun. I actually gave a presentation at Richard Ivey recently called Shameless. Like be shameless, and that's really what you need to be. And these young people were quite horrified with me. Apparently quite into it. Like I got very good ratings and they were into it, but they couldn't believe it. Like, I don't know. They're shy. They're polite. They want to do things the right way. They don't want to feel embarrassed. And I don't wake up every day thinking, how can I embarrass myself?
Yeah.
But I also don't really care. People have short memories and you have to take a chance. And maybe it's growing up in social media, and maybe these young people that have just always had cameras on them all the time, maybe they're more afraid of being embarrassed. But I don't know what it is, but it really is just, we were absolutely shameless.
Well, I think, though, it's evolved. I mean, I know, and they've talked about studies about how much introversion and isolation there is, especially because of the pandemic, and we're getting our outlet to community through social. But when I look at the likes of TikTok, I think there's people are willing to be more, or shall we say, bold or shameless to a camera, as opposed to standing on the street with a banner behind Matt Lauer. And that's not a criticism. It's just,
I don't care. I'm not embarrassed.
It might be 2 different things. I know for myself, I have a background in film and television, but I can't say as I enjoy, putting myself out there on camera to do something silly. But
I don't either. But there's something about growing your business where you kind of have to be. And I don't think I would on my own, actually. I think that's another partnership thing. Like, we made a rule early on. If Mabel was paying for you to fly somewhere, you better come back and report who you sat beside, what you told them, what connections they have. Like, we made it like part of our culture to tell everyone, anybody. You never know who you're sitting beside.
Yeah.
You never know who you're talking to and who they know. And we just made it a part of how we operated. And that's difficult for a lot of people. And it's not my normal way to live my life either. But something about owing that to my partners and doing it for Mabel, who we really thought was like our sister wives' baby somehow, it was somehow different.
But it maybe it's not the same for your partners, but what comes to mind is that concept of being on. And I don't mean like, obnoxiously on, just being willing to, even we've been talking about Oprah, that Oprah talks about is when luck and opportunity are at a crossroads, that's good. That's knowing that that's what's transpired and taking the moment for your business. So I'm just wondering, did you have to summon that, or was it part of your nature to just be sort of in the moment and be promoted?
I think we were just really buoyed by that. I've actually never heard that. Even though I tried to be Oprah's best friend, I don't actually watch the show or anything. Luck and opportunity. Got it. That is exactly where we were. Like, we had this, we were buoyed by the energy that the moms were giving us, that the sales were giving us, that the press was giving us, that all these producers and journalists, like, it was amazing. So it really was like a bit of a high, and we didn't know how long it was going to last. And we also felt incredibly proud. So it was like, I am actually a very shy, very introverted person also. But when given an opportunity, given a stage, given something, like, you should see me at a trade show. I think I could out ShamWow the ShamWow guy. Like, I love working a trade show, and as people gather, I start going louder and louder and don't walk away now. Come on, we're about to give away. Like, you just like, I love it. And
operators are standing by.
Exactly. So it is turning it on. Like, I can be on when I'm on, and then I can just go home and crawl under a blanket for 3 days.
Or is there anyone that you're paying attention to now that I won't say is copying what you did, but like you're impressed by, or you've taken notice of? Just like guerrilla marketing, direct to consumer type product.
I love Ryanair.
Is impressing you. Sorry, Ryanair?
Ryanair, I love their TikTok. Yeah. Yes. Gosh, there's a deodorant brand that I can't think of right now that I love. I mean, there's so many interesting things. I'm obsessed with TikTok at the moment. There's a baker in Australia called Brookie Bakes, and she's just doing a tremendous job. I see a lot of social media people like you with consulting businesses that have so much opportunity because it's so incredibly easy to make a connection with the right people. The algorithms are so strong right now, especially in TikTok, and so unfenced. We'll say
you don't even need followers. Like, the For You page will do so much work for you. But when you mention Ryanair, I think of them and I think of like Wendy's, this cheekiness, this snark, this willing to be emboldened. That not everyone can do that. And I'm wondering, what's your take on that?
And certainly we didn't do that. Like, that's my natural way of being. I'll out-snark the snarkiest in my real life. But with Mabel, we had to be really careful. The odd time, I once had the keys taken away from me on Twitter because the moms can get upset, and you never know who you're offending. And we tried to stay very, very neutral. And I think it is important when you're building. We were kind of afraid of it. It would really be fun for me to play in a bit of a naughtier brand. But we definitely tried to stay neutral. We were growing. We had a lot of risk. Like, as the business grew, like we felt more and more pressure. Like, I remember once looking around, and maybe we had 5 full-time employees, full-time people, and we were like, these people's whole families rely on these jobs now. This is terrible. It becomes we weren't in the basement anymore. We still definitely had a lot of fun, but we had more to risk, and we were careful.
You can't ignore the pressure.
No. Oh, in terms of like brands I really like in a safe space, there's this company called Cuddle and Kind, a Canadian toy brand that I just love, partly because they do tremendous photography. They get real babies, like they really make a connection with moms, and that's what it is. It's about visuals and being real and making a connection. So.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Social media has become an imperative for almost every business. Discover how to successfully implement an effective social media strategy that is supported and integrated throughout every part of your organization with this essential book from our host, Andrew Jenkins. Social Media Marketing for Business, Scaling an Integrated Social Media Strategy Across Your Organization, is now available from Amazon or KoganPage.com.
I think I've seen them on TikTok. When you talked about, your tone, I want to take it sort of up a level to brand. And was there, I'll call it, deep, intense discussions about brand in the beginning? Or did it just sort of, organic is an overused word. Did the brand sort of evolve and you realized what's in and what's out about what you wanted the brand to be? But in some ways it becomes evident to you over time because you're rolled up your sleeves and you're trying to keep, production and just serve customers, and the brand comes about later. I'm fumbling with
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
words
We
here,
did not know what we were doing. We didn't even know if we'd be in business. We didn't even know if it was a business. So we literally took my hand-drawn Mabel, which is so awful, and then I worked in a print shop with graphic designers and whatnot. So we did pay one designer like maybe $500 to clean up mine when we realized mine was way too ugly. And then we lived with that one for a long, long time. And then we hired this firm out of New York to do something for us. It wasn't a full brand makeover, something small. And then one day we got quite friendly with them. They were really nice. I'm still friends with them. And they said, can we talk to you about Mabel? I'm like, yeah, no, like the icon. She's a mess. And I was like, what? Like,
it
you're
was
telling
a
people to get
tough
organized.
love conversation.
Yeah, they're like, you're telling people to be organized and tidy in their lives, and yet your logo has messy hair. Why is your hair such a mess? And I was like, I don't know. And they said, look at your labels. Nothing matches. Nobody could look at these products and say, oh, that's a Mabel's labels, because by then we had many competitors. We were first to market, but within 1 year we had to sue somebody for cease and desist. It was super fun. They took my kid's picture. They thought my kid was clip art and used it on their website. That was an easy win. Anyway, so we had competitors, and so they said, like, how is it? And it just hadn't occurred to us. And I think that's very, very common when you're building a business. You're not building a brand, and you don't think your baby's ugly. And I find now that I'm a mentor, I often have to be the one that says your baby's really ugly. It's not that popular, but after a while, and then after they see it, after you explain it, they're like, oh, my baby is really ugly.
Well, when you were, all these competitors were popping up, what did you do in response? What were you doing to differentiate yourself? Was it just forward momentum, or?
No, we sent cease and desist letters. We hired lawyers if we had to, but Julie Cole is a lawyer, so we got pretty far with those. They were always very, very dumb. One company copied and pasted our privacy policy. I get it. Nobody wants to write a privacy policy. It is easy to copy and paste them. Change the name. They actually still had Mabel's labels in their privacy policy. Easy. Taking my kid's photo, easy. Somebody took one of our product names directly. We did know pretty early on we were wise enough to do some trademarking. Copyright isn't enough, as you know, but a lot of people make that mistake. But in the end, so it made us crazy. We were angry. You don't want to get 4 mothers pissed off. You do not want that. There's a reason 4 women don't share a child. It would be hideous. So we were the angriest women in Ontario for a while. But then it also made us realize that the more competition was raising awareness for the spot in the market. Nobody knew. Like, here we were trying to tell people, you're an animal. Stop using tape. Your kids deserve better. You need these labels. But suddenly we had all these other companies telling them that too. So it helped raise the profile of the need. So in the end, we had to calm down. But if anybody ripped us off, if anybody went too close, we would still get very, very angry and litigious.
You masking tape savages.
Exactly. Go be an animal. I've got a marker. There's nothing permanent about permanent marker. And then the dads would say, you know what, I've got an engraver. Oh, okay. You go engrave your baby bottles. Go nuts.
Yeah, knock yourself out. Well,
Yeah.
so all of that effort, there came a point when, a crossroads, when you were recognized collectively for all this effort, brand achievement, sales growth. How did the wooing begin? Pre-acquisition begin?
It really was completely random. We never thought we'd be bought. We did get to a point, I don't know, I don't even know the dates. I'm terrible at this game. Where we had advisors. We had some advice from Deloitte partners. We had a lot of people interested enough in us that they would give us free advice, or lots of advisors. And then we hired some folks to give us advice from time to time. We had an excellent accounting firm that would give us strategic planning advice. Mm-hmm. And even they never really saw somebody buy.
Just on that, getting the advice, was it advice about preparing to sell, or just about, this is where we are, what are our options? Yeah. Is it more of that camp?
Yeah, we would get to these points where to grow bigger, we would need to invest in more equipment, or if we want to, do we really need to be in America to understand America and sell in America? Do we need to do production in America? Like big decisions like that. We did struggle with, but we definitely wanted some other eyeballs on the problem. And no, selling, we never thought about selling. We thought about it because people would say, what's your exit strategy? And we'd be like, I don't know, we'll die someday. Don't have one. We honestly couldn't see anyone buying it because it's really a pain in the ass business. We set this business up with the most incredible customer service promises, with the most incredible shipping promises, no questions asked return, like all of these really high bars. And one of the highest bar was within 24 hours of you giving us your credit card number, the labels will be in the mail. So it was like the Dunkin' Donuts commercial. Every single day, get up and make the labels. Got to get up and make the labels. Got to get up and it's a thing. And it's difficult. It's a very cyclical business. Like we would have to triple our production staff in the summer. It's hard to find those people and rely on them. And we had to run 24/7 in the summer, and it was rather hideous. And, we just didn't see anybody. We never had anyone approach us. We didn't think it would be of interest. And then July, I had to write down the date because I am, like I said, terrible at this game. Honestly, 2012 to 2015 is just a blur. And then in June 2015, it was July 2015. Everyone was on holidays. I got a call on my voicemail. I remember I just stood there and stared at it. It was somebody from Avery Labels asking if we were for sale. And I just stared at the phone. I kept that voicemail for 2 years, I swear. And I called my partners. They were all on vacation. I don't know where people were. And I was like, are we for sale? And they're like, I don't know. So we had to get together fast. And
had you ever brushed up against Avery people at trade shows or anything?
No, in June 2012, we launched into retail, and we took some retail space away from them. We were on the shelves at Target, Walmart, H-E-B, and Meijer in the U.S. So I think they say they were aware of us before that, and they were kind of intrigued by this permanent labeling kind of thing. But I think that taking some shelf space from them at back to school season probably really put us on their radar.
Who is this upstart?
Yeah. And so they called, and we quickly, we felt some pressure. If it was going to happen, they wanted it to happen fast. We weren't sure if it was really going to happen. We weren't entirely sure we wanted it. So we felt like the smartest thing to do was for one of us to drop out of the business temporarily and run the acquisition. And the other three partners stay on track, keep running the business, keep growing, keep doing what we're doing. We didn't want the staff to know. We couldn't let the staff to know. We were under strict NDA. We also didn't want them to know anything. So I don't really remember what we told them about me, but I kind of dropped out of the business for 6 months and fronted the acquisition, and went to California many times, presented, met them, learned about it. We had a wonderful, wonderful lawyer, a Canadian lawyer on our side, and our fantastic accountant that we're still very close with. And the deal went through within 6 months. January 2016, it was announced. It
Wow.
was a crazy time.
Well,
Really
and
hideous, like really hideous.
I went through. I was not primarily involved, but I worked for a company that went through an acquisition, and but to your point, like you have to be careful who you tell, and two is like
Mhm.
you also have to be prepared that it doesn't happen. So you
Exactly.
can't divert all of your attention to and the business potentially suffers as a result. That, oh, I assumed it was
Yeah.
all going to go through, and then you're left sort of off kilter. So
No, no,
well, and
absolutely. It was.
well, and you stayed on. What was that transition like to go
It was
from, I'll
pretty.
call it, owner and co-founder to employee?
It was that part wasn't so bad actually. The business at that point, it was big. We had retail division. We had our custom labels. We did all kinds of things. It was big, and I didn't I didn't mind having an employer. That wasn't an issue for me. But stepping into the general manager role was a thing because we had always, like I said in the beginning, been siloed. We all had our
Right.
parts of the business, and immediately one of my partners knew that if it went through, she wanted to leave. She didn't want to be a part of it. She wanted to do something else. Fine, great. And then Avery said one of us had to be the GM, which was very difficult for us to come to
The
come to terms with.
straws.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think just because I had been the face of the acquisition, they knew me better. They were most comfortable with me. There are a lot of reasons why I shouldn't have been, that I wasn't the ideal pick because, my other partner who always ran finance and IT, that's a big portfolio too, and that's an important part of what they wanted. So we really did struggle with who should do it. But we had a strong team at that point, and I guess we felt culturally it was me. Like the marketing and the brand and the office culture is so much a part of what Mabel's Labels is, and I was a big part of that. Maybe is the reason it
Right.
made sense. But no, it was actually okay for me. A lot of our staff had trouble. Like the day we told them, we had 2 staff quit on the spot right after the meeting. I only want to work for you guys. I'm not working for anybody else. It's time for me to retire. Okay.
Well, but it's
And
quite a statement to you and your fellow leaders and to the culture that
yeah,
was that sort of part of their who they were.
it is, and we had a great culture. We were doing what's called ROW, results only work environment, where people could work from home, they could work from wherever, they could work 30 hours a week or they could work 60 hours a week, whatever. We just cared about the results. We cared that they got their work done and that we were still growing. And if we weren't growing, if they weren't hitting the results, then that would. So we had this very flexible, unlimited vacation, as you can imagine. They were not into that. So that was probably a part of it. And some changes did happen fast, and we lost a lot of people in the first year. That was difficult.
Well, and you stayed on for three, or sorry, no, nearly
Yeah.
5, wasn't it?
Yeah. I left November 2020, so four and a bit.
Yeah. And I mean, without nothing breaching confidentiality, what prompted did you decide it's time?
It stopped being fun. And that wasn't really, that's the short answer. The long answer is COVID nearly killed me. Like it was a horrible time. Like, when Avery's owned by CCL, which is a Canadian company, and they're the world's largest label company. They have factories all over the world. And I met some incredible people there, and it is a really cool company. They do some incredible stuff. And, I was flown all over the world, like any factory I wanted to see, I went to Thailand and Germany and Switzerland and
But
Netherlands and anywhere all the time. And it was awesome. The perks of working for them were quite good in my position. I met amazing people and saw the insides of factories and printing processes that I never thought I would see.
another
And
education.
then, it was amazing. And when the pandemic hit, and all those perks dried up, and we still had to meet our goals. And, that was March break. We realized we're not going to have a summer camp season. I assume we get to adjust our annual plan. No, you did not. You still have to meet your goals. Oh, so if kids aren't going to camp, okay, they'll go back to school though. Oh wait, kids aren't going back to school. Crap. Uh, so I had a little bit for the first few months of the pandemic. It was actually kind of exciting for me. I like the adrenaline of a crisis, and so
Mhm.
we very, very quickly. I was very proud of our team. We very quickly pivoted to We found a factory in Hamilton that could make masks, children's masks, long before Old Navy or anybody had them. We were selling masks, tons of masks. We figured out how to make plastic shields out of our equipment, sourced elastic, sourced the foam. We were making shields. We were making, distance keepers for the floors because we had all that printing equipment.
Yeah.
We were making some money doing all of this stuff. It wasn't enough, and it was stressful. And then the other thing that was just the nail in the coffin for me was the government giving money away. You think anybody wants to come and make labels at minimum wage when the government will pay them CERB to stay home? No, we could not get workers that summer. It was the worst summer, even though we weren't as busy as we typically would be. And it was just kind of awful. Like our factory staff, our full-timers, fabulous people. Most of them are still there. They came in every single day. They did not, unless they tested positive, which I don't think we even had COVID. Mm-hmm. They kept themselves very safe. They kept each other safe. They came in and made labels every day. But it was an empty building. All of the IT people, the marketing people, the customer service people, which is a big part of the culture, they were all working from home. So these people were in this empty factory. I went every single day, and it was just kind of depressing. And it's not what I like about business. I don't want to sit on a Zoom. I can't do an annual plan on Zoom. I need to see you and talk to you and feel the colors. Not that you feel colors, but I need to feel the colors. I need to see it. I need to talk to people. And it was just awful. And parallel to that, my ex-husband was very sick, and my daughter, of course, was struggling with that. And it just was like, okay. So I got us through that back to school and said, that's that.
Well, I mean, to your point, it's kind of just chips away. It's test your metal. It's just like, first it was no camp, then it was no school, and then it's like half people in work, half people out, and it just keeps compounding and compounding. And it can. People were asking me, how's the pandemic been for you? I said, well, I've worked from home for a decade, so this is not. Mm-hmm. It feels, I'll say, somewhat normal. And I said, it's only unusual when I go out, where you have to stand on a space-saving sticker or distance sticker, things like that. That's where it felt unusual. But yeah, I mean, just walk down the street.
I just hated walking into that empty building, and
you see all these restaurants that trying to survive on takeout, and just it really
it was a rough time. I really felt for. And I would hear a lot of my friends in lots of other professions that I shall not name, who everyone thought they had it worse than the other. And I probably also thought I had it worse than the other, but it really was I had to let go so many people. And you come home from work and tell me you had to let go of 10 people, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
It was a terrible time to be in business.
Well, and did you take a break for a while then, even though it might've been COVID induced?
I said I would. I was going to take a gap year. But I had a family illness to deal with, and, a teenager that was struggling, high school, all of that. So it wasn't the funnest gap years. And then I decided to take 2 gap years. And in those times, though, I did have private clients. As soon as I was gone, I had people reach out and say, we see you're not with Mabel's Labels anymore. Would you help us with this? Which I never also thought would happen. When you're a bootstrapper, when I don't have an MBA, I don't have anything, I just made this up. So you kind of have a lot of self-doubt and a bit of imposter syndrome. So when people did want to hire me, I didn't even have a website. I didn't put it on LinkedIn for a long time that I was looking for something. And it was kind of amazing. And I discovered I loved it. And I always knew that I wanted to work at an incubator. I've always stayed close to what's happening in Kitchener-Waterloo. But because Mabel was in Hamilton, I was driving to Hamilton every day. So I never got to be a part of the innovation that goes on in this city. I live in Kitchener, I should have said that. So after 2 years, I reached out to the Accelerator Center, and they were glad to have me, and it's been really fun.
Well, and if you had to describe what you're doing there, what would you say?
I do meet mostly on Zoom, unfortunately. I was hoping there'd be more in person, but they have customers all over the world. And it's typically with startups, small businesses, and giving them advice on lots of things. I seem to fall into, I'm one of the only mentors there that has been a founder and has had an exit. So I find I do a lot of entrepreneur counseling or partnership counseling. And so that's interesting. And I do a lot of UX for e-commerce, lots of Shopify. Like everyone buys a Shopify template and then thinks, oh, here we go. But there's a lot more you need to do to it to get it to convert. Social media, coaching. I love to talk about PR still strategies. Like if I see something happening on TikTok or in the news, I always think of a customer and have to send them a message in the middle of the night. You guys got to get on this. I still like that opportunistic lens, but now I get to do it for lots of companies, and it's not my own company, so it's fun.
What are you seeing? I mean, as you just described, you're helping them with a variety of things, but are there some common challenges that are prevalent, or what can you say about that?
I think gaining eyeballs is a huge problem. Like it's just really crowded, and that's why I'm always pushing people to TikToks. I think that's their fastest route, and just doing pure SEO, and people don't seem to believe me when I tell them they just need more content, they just need more blogs, they need to get more traffic, more long tail traffic that will build, and they think it's a lot of work, and they've got ChatGPT. Like to me, it's the golden age. It's so like between the AI for art and Canva and ChatGPT to write things. I mean, you have to rewrite it, but it's just, yeah, people. This is very common. It was probably with us too. You build something, you hatch this idea for this clip, and you're like, this is the best clip in the world. People should just buy it. It's so great, and they've worked so hard on the clip, and they know everything about the clip, and they love the clip. They love the clip so much, and then they have to find it in them to love marketing. They have to find it in them, and that's another reason that I say partnerships are so good. I've got this one customer who's an engineer, and he's built a beautiful clip, we'll say, and he's very, very brilliant, and he knows everything. He's good at sourcing, and he's very particular. His materials are excellent. He hates the marketing stuff, so he did get his sister-in-law to start doing some marketing for him, and she's killing it. And that's what it takes. If you don't have it in you, you need to find a friend.
Yeah.
And whether you make them a partner or whether you do some kind of profit share or something, it has to be done. If you want to build the best clip in the world, then you should be an engineer at a clip company.
Well, when you talk about SEO and more blogs, I mean, we advise clients to listen. Less content is rarely or frankly never the answer. And that doesn't mean that you've got to be pumping out a blog every day. But to your point, it's so competitive for visibility now that if you're, posting once on a social channel and your competitor's posting 5 times, I'm sorry, like they're going to be that much more visible. It's just the math ain't mathin'.
And engagement. I'll see them post something beautiful, like a beautiful thing. I'm like, do I have to point out that you didn't even like this? What do you mean? I said, you haven't even gone in your personal Instagram and liked this post or left a comment. Where's your mom? Why doesn't your mom comment on this? Like, I can't ask my mom. Are you kidding me?
Where are your supporters?
Yes.
Well,
and that's the shameless part.
Are you advising that when you mentioned like SEO and blogging and the long tail, whether it's social or it's blogging, and even though that's part of it, having to instill in them that unless you're doing paid, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to be lighting the world on fire for at least 6 months.
Absolutely. 6 months on SEO for sure. But I do also then advise them, I advise them to go after some PR, try to get some high ranking leads, some very, high, whatever you call that, authority links. Fix everything on your website, obsess over it. Like run your website through every tester you can. Know your headers, know your metas, and know your competition's headers and metas. A lot of them don't want to face competition either. I find this. Some advisors say, and I don't know how you feel about it, but people tell me all the time, and I believe someone told me this once, don't pay attention to your competitors. You're going to get lost in it. It's going to drive you crazy. Don't do it. Bullshit. You have to know. If you're trying to win on the internet, you have to know everything. What their backlinks are, what all their tags are, what their website was built on, everything. Their Google, you have the opportunity to see all of their Facebook ads in Ad Manager. Why aren't you doing that?
Well, we advise clients that the beautiful thing about social is there's no shortage of data. and I can show you how you're stacking up against your competitors.
Mm-hmm.
Even for some organizations that aren't quote competitors, we ask who are the peers that you pay attention to, who impresses you, and so we kind of benchmark them against that, and we have ongoing analytics on a monthly basis. You posted this much this month. This is the volume of impressions and engagement you got. Here's what the landscape that you're measured against looks like. Oh, and so like you tell me whether you like if you're happy about that. If you're leading the pack,
I understand
great.
the philosophy. Don't get too wrapped up in the competition. I do understand it, but I think it's misguided. And I also think, for me anyway, paying a very close attention to the competition fires me up, and it tells me where to be, and it's fun.
Well, I think to your point, you can say I don't care about the competition when it comes to how you might want to be different, but that doesn't mean you're not applying potentially the same methodology to enable you being different, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, you have to know what words they're not occupying, what phrases they're not occupying, what audiences they're not going after. The number of clients I've had when I do my first intake meeting, so who's your competition? And I think I'll steal your phrasing, who do you admire? Because who's your competition? The number of companies that have told me, I don't have any. My clip is the first one like it. I'm like, oh, God. Here we go. I'm gonna burst some bubbles. Some of the other mentors call me the dream crusher.
Well, it's to your point. It's about, in some cases, you're forcing them to acknowledge, oh, maybe we haven't been as thorough in our, speculation. And I remember the CEO of the startup that I worked for that got acquired. He talked about going on an investor roadshow, and he said, I got ripped apart in the beginning. But by the end of it all, he said, I knew every answer to every question because I had heard it all. And he was better prepared. And this, like you're meeting them, they haven't done the gauntlet yet, the trial by fire, but you have. And I mean, that's the value you're bringing to the table is to.
Well, I'm also just trying to take the blinders off. Like the indirect competition is also really, really important, and they don't want to see that.
Well, listen, this has been fantastic. I want to thank you so much for your time. I loved it. Had a great time, and I hope you did as well.
Yeah, it did. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Low Production High Value Show. Be sure to give us a rating and subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode. Don't forget to check out Volterra at volterradigital.com to learn more about how they can support your social media marketing.